of this, especially now that we know very well that there's been a crunch and, a pinch on the economy? A sigh of relief?
Huge. I've said before that what the president was facing is a moral dilemma, because you either, and allow me to say this, we were either going to die because of hunger, because we had no source of income, or we are going to die of COVID if we infect each other. So really, it's a moral dilemma, which is a better evil.
I'll use the president's words. What was he saying yesterday? He's been juggling on, whether to save the economy or save the lives of the people. And according to him, we can always resuscitate an economy that is dwindling, but we cannot revive lives.
For me, the key problem from the beginning was the fact that it was half-heartedly done. In terms of when this situation came up, we allowed people from the epicenter to come into the country. Then when we started to lock down, we locked down in a jokingly way. I've told you that these whole barriers between Nairobi and the rest were just money collection units for the police officers, and I have no apologies in saying that. Anybody could get through with 200-300 shillings. You saw the last week the police actually vindicated me by going to show that actually that was happening. And so you either needed to have a full lockdown or nothing at all. And what we had with the jocular one. So what happened is that we messed our economy. We messed our economy in the process of pretending to prevent COVID. Because COVID, you notice the infections are still going up. We are 300. And for me, the most interesting thing was to lock down the country at 7 cases and open the country at 8,000 cases.
And lockdown in totality, could we have sustained that, even as we take a look at whether indeed it's a reprieve?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that the president did something wrong in opening the economy, because as he has said, how can we close the economy at 1 and open it at 8,000 shillings? What I thought yesterday is that the president was pushed to open the economy. Every Kenyan,
by every other Kenyan,
yes, every other Kenyan was saying, let's open the economy. And I was wondering why Kenyans are talking about opening the economy when the numbers are going up. Are Kenyans not Kenyans in Kenya? Are they not seeing that the numbers are going up? Because Kenyans were pushing fast for curfew to be lifted. So that they can go for Dunda. These youngsters in whatever. They want the bars to be opened. They want the economy to be opened. They want Nairobi to be opened. The president had to make a political move. What I can say yesterday, that was a political move to appease the Kenyans who were agitating for the opening of the economy. And but the president cautioned. He said, let us look at the decisions I've made after 21 days. If numbers are going to go up, then we're going to lock down the economy. But the question is, are they true numbers?
Kemri projected 2 point something million?
If someone gets 300 cases and you open the economy immediately, are you really serious about it? Are you telling us the truth? Kemri did their samples. And they came up with a model. They said close to 5% of Kenyans, or 10%, yes, close to 5% of Kenyans have it. Some 2.5 million people. Those are samples from Kemri, which I think is going to vindicate the government with their numbers, with their huge numbers. Yes.
But not as huge as what Kemri has brought. But anyway, gentlemen, let's first of all take a look at some 2-3.
I'd just like to make a comment that I'm a complete contrary opinion. And you remember 2-3 weeks ago, I've been on this.
Yes, you've been here. You maintain that it's important to reopen.
It is very important to open the economy. The damn thing is a viral disease. The only way to fight with the viral disease, there's not a single viral infection that has treatment. It's a fact. People take take care of the person who is ailing. And for this virus to be defeated, we must all become infected, so that we have immunity.
Right.
When the German Chancellor Merkel said this in March, she was lambasted.
Right.
Because she said, I'm not closing this country because I want us to get our herd immunity quicker.
Right,
Let's
okay.
80% of us be immunity. So you don't kill people with fear. Let people take care of themselves. Let people take care of themselves.
Let's see the worst that can happen. All right,
see the worst that can
looking
happen.
at the worst that can happen, gentlemen. We upon the president's address, there were fair share of reactions, different reactions. For instance, also on matters politics. Politics at some point in time played out. We have touched on that in the morning, but we also had reactions from Kenyans. I've looked at some of them on Twitter, but we also have some that my team had prepared in terms of the memes, and you just look at some of the things that Kenyans say and you lie. And then so this is 2NK and shuttle drivers going to look for their vehicles. It is interesting. Yeah, Mulizi tupo wapi sasa kama ziko huko kwa nini man? Here we go. We're going to take that step. Oh, kunywa pewa tano. Pewa ngapi Mr. President? It is umefanya kitu maana sana namna gani? What else? May the highest fare sender win. There you go. All these in troubles. So anyone below 13 years and above, all right, we're losing that. Okay, yes, are not allowed in places of worship. Oh no.
Yes.
Raila Odinga,
Yeah.
Francis Atwoli,
Yes.
Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, David Murathe, Moses Wetangula, Wycliffe Oparanya, Musalia Mudavadi, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto.
William Ruto.
William Ruto is safe, eh?
Yes, yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's the only one.
Man, yeah, ni mtu wa Mungu huyo. Namna gani bana? He's ni mtu wa Mungu. We've all seen how much he's so much into the church affairs and all that. We have so much, but let's just react on those ones. I mean, Kenyans in a way were excited.
Yes.
I don't know why you were not excited in this case.
I was not, because I have watched international news and I've seen people burying their loved ones like something else. Instead of digging the grave the normal way, people are using excavators. And they are digging graves in thousands.
Yeah.
And families are given only 1 minute to have time with their dead. Just 1 minute to look at them before they are buried.
Edgar, it's a catch-22. Why we're saying
Yes.
it's a catch-22, we'll pick what Alex had said earlier on. I mean, you can as well say this. If you'd bury people out of COVID-19, okay, if you reopen, then you would reduce the number of people you'll bury because of the levels of poverty, the lack of sustainability in terms of of course what the economy is going through right now. So when we're talking about the debts, like it's almost like it's a gamble.
It's a gamble as to what is worse than the other. And I think when people die, you bury them. But when people fall back to poverty, you bury them over a long time.
All right.
So for me, I would rather we get out there.
Yeah.
We have what you call the guidelines that are being given by Ministry of Health, that are being given by the World Health Organization. And by the way, no one understands this disease, for your information, because even World Health Organization have been shifting the goalpost in terms of that. We've heard that the huge deaths in New York and the rest of the places that were broadcast so heavily in the month of March and April into a point where 2,000 people are dying in a day. We discovered that those people are not necessarily COVID. They had other issues that were causing them, but they were putting them there to bump up the numbers. And our neighbors, Tanzania, they're free. Would be expecting the body to be collected on the streets. And initially there were videos that were coming around showing that people are dying in large numbers and dropping in the streets.
Do you think they were lies?
My dear, it's the same video, 3 videos that was circulated for more than 2 months.
Okay.
Which means it's a lie.
It's a lie. All right, but you come
propaganda.
on board. You bring on board a very important thing, and I think yes, we can say, well, we have reopened, but like you rightfully put it, with restrictions, let's abide by what the Ministry of Health has given us guidelines. But just how disciplined are we? How able are we to be able to do this? Now,
we don't have to be treated like children. That because we are not responsible, then we have to be forced to be locked down. I mean, I'm talking to Kenyans.
Yeah.
Let's use our common sense. If the government has recommended a meter, stay a meter away from each other. We've discovered that a lot of people can do their work from home. work from home. And this morning I was very impressed that I thought today I'll be caught up by a huge jam when coming. And I've realized Kenyans have moved on. People have changed their way of doing it. People are not rushing to come into town to be able to come to work. Let's follow those guidelines. Let's use our common sense and follow those guidelines. Because I would rather we take care of ourselves than die of depression.
All right, okay. Coming to you, I still would want to linger on that point of why it is that you feel like this wasn't the right move. The president highlighted very well that previously, when he was making that address in June, he noted that there were some irreducible minimums that were supposed to be achieved, yeah? We have not been able to achieve this in totality, but he acknowledges that we have made steps based on the recommendations that have been presented by different stakeholders. So why is it that you feel like it was a bad move? And he acknowledges that the little that we have done is good enough to be able to sustain us.
Well, Linda, we've been given a lot of money by the international community.
Yeah.
And they have spent almost 500 billion in the country, more than close to $1 trillion in the country. Where is the money? Why can't Kenya be locked for 2 weeks or 3 weeks? Because this virus has been known to spend its time, it's 3 weeks.
That is to say, you want the monies that were given as donations to be used to take care of Kenyans.
Well, it was done poorly, and it was done for the rich.
Right.
And I'll tell you this. People who have companies have access to stimulus loans. When you go to the bank and you ask for money, you will be given the stimulus money. Who will be able to go to the bank to get the money, to pay the employees who are sleeping at home, and later you will now pay back the money? You know, the government spend its money in a wrong manner.
Okay.
It should have targeted people in closed door, whatever, in the houses, feed these people for 2 weeks, open the economy. You know, but right now we are playing with ourselves and listening to what Kenyans are doing. Look at how Kenyans are happy. Paka wanapea president.
But it's because they're the people who are suffering. Look at this scenario.
Exactly.
You say that the government has spent the money, you know, in an inappropriate way, which is something that you would acknowledge that, you know, while they have spent it that way, they are not suffering as the common mwananchi is suffering. Hence the push, hence the need, hence the desire to proceed and, you know, just reopen, just ease at least, Mr. President, for us.
Kenyans are on their own, by the way. The decision makers are making the decisions out of their own selfish interest.
Yeah. You can always come in with, but don't. Yeah.
These people should have made right decisions for Kenyans. Sometimes we think that the people who are driving the country are bright enough to drive us. These people might kill us, by the way.
And speaking of which, I had Vivian in the morning here, and Vivian sort of said that, you know, the president gave us that I don't care attitude, like I've left it for you people to figure it out. Is it the case?
It's not really that. And I'd like to tell my friend that the leaders that we have are a sampling of us.
Okay.
So if you think they are thick, they are thick. If you think they are stupid, they are stupid.
Right,
if you think they don't care, we don't care.
Yeah.
And it shows top to bottom. When there was a total lockdown, as a matter of fact, Linda, for information, the lockdown was for the poor.
Yeah.
The rich moved wherever they want to move. We had the Atuoli moving all the members of the nation going to Kajiado, crossing the roadblocks and all that. We've seen other leaders attending funerals all over this country, attending seminars and meetings and whatever they have. We've had the Minister of Health going to Zaya to hold a press conference where the distancing of the people that were around him, almost 30-40 people, was less than half a meter.
Okay.
They were crowding around him, which means that the lockdown was really for the hoi polloi. And it was only important for the president to say, look, if the leaders, so-called leaders, have been free to move around and to do whatever they have to do, why would I hold back the hoi polloi? I mean, are they children of lesser God? And I think it's a good decision that he did to open up. You notice I question a lot of things that he does, but in this case he had no option. He had to open up this country.
Well,
as a matter of fact, this country opened up 2-3 months ago.
And now that brings me to
Long
this
time
question.
ago.
The
There was no
reopening nations,
lockdown.
that brings me, yes.
Those barriers were poll stations for money collection for the police officers.
Yeah.
And I have no, I can say again, I have no apologies to say that. We have been vindicated by that being seen to be so.
Yeah.
And so we have a responsibility to do whatever we have to do to observe the Ministry of Health guidelines. We need to go to Tanzania and find out why are they not being affected. In fact, one of the beautiful memes that came through was Tanzanians making joke of us and saying, maybe our neighbors are cursed because the country is called Kenya and the president is called Kenyatta.
Well, interesting views right there. But you see here, this is now the question on board. And what he says here is that even before, we've not been able to maintain, what have restrictions that were put on board or were given, So we have reopened, and President Uhuru Kenyatta reiterates that it's important that you abide by the restrictions that have been given on board. So are there restrictions at all? Are we toying around with ourselves? Are we lying to ourselves? Are we going to be able to manage some of these things? Again, I quote Vivian in the morning, says that, in as much as you're telling the churches to proceed and do this, who is going to be there to ensure that, 100 people get into church and, they are below and above and all these things?
Now, Linda, the president himself opened a can of worms when he was starting this. He himself led political meetings in State House and overturned decisions made by parties and made sure that the country was politically charged during a COVID-19. He is the one who ran the country into this. And people would follow their leader. A choir is not higher than the choir master. We're all following the leader of the nation. And the leaders whom we choose ourselves, the MPs, the Atuolis, the people who have been having meetings. Now, what will a local mwananchi do in such a case where we have people floating the rules and those who want us to keep the rules? They should be leading by examples. In a matter of the churches, I think when it comes to our churches, we are better and we can manage ourselves. And there was a task force that was formed by Matiang'i, and there's been a follow-up. I saw some green good books written yesterday being handed over to the president or something about the churches. Very colorful books. And our friends from the church contributed, the pastors contributed, and I think we are going to follow it. We as the local wananchi, we tend to follow rules so much.
Right.
But when we see our president having a political meeting in State House,
we'll be all out next day.
I am going to hold mine.
Oops.
Yeah.
All right, that's interesting. Okay, well, speaking of which now, that we're talking about the politics of the nation, the president says that we're not going to have the politics. Of course, this is just within the measures that are supposed to be put on board. But just how disciplined our politicians are, or are our politicians not to hold some of these political meetings, now that we're talking about the BBI and the steam that is ongoing? And the Mulembe nation.
I keep thinking and imagining sometimes that our leaders live in Mars and we live on Earth. So that their sense of reality is totally different. One thing is, when you talk about 100 people attending every service, we're thinking, Jesus Christ, how many churches do we have?
Very many.
And who will come and police that only 100 people are there?
Tricky.
If a church has a following of about, for argument's sake, go to Sitam in Nairobi. Look at 100 people seated in that auditorium that they have built.
Right.
You're joking. Go to Karen, Sitam, go to Umoja Deliverance Church and look at the size of that church. And you're telling them to have 100 members as the church of Jesus Christ, blah, 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 in Kangware.
No children.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
It is almost impossible? Why do you say
it's impossible? I'm saying the reality would ensure that you have safe distancing. 100 people in Sitam the church, the hall will be empty.
They can do 100 in different sessions.
They can do 100 in Sweden. What I'm saying, there is enough space for more than 100.
More than 100, okay.
And they keep their social distancing.
Okay.
You know, this is a scientific thing. It's not a Jameson thing. It's a scientific thing that you calculate that I need how many people in this church if I have to keep them 1 meter apart. And because when you make such rules that don't make sense, then people ignore them. They make nonsense of them.
They go against
For me, last week, the reflection of us and our thinking was, I went to a place we were having a small meeting, and it is in a pub. And I saw around 3 o'clock, men came in and women, and each sat, you know those markings that you have on in the pub, 1 meter away from each other. But I can assure you by 6 o'clock, they were hugging.
Yeah. Oh no!
So you look at that situation and say, oh yeah, sometimes even the government gets a bit drunk with his own power and does this kind of.
Speaking of which, we are waiting for Mago. And I mean, sad to speak, was to say there's been a lot of confusion, especially on matters education, and well, it is justified in a way because I mean the entire global community is as confused. But in this case, we are expecting a report as of today on what, of course, directions we're going to take in reopening of schools. But one thing is for sure, teachers must test in the event that we're reopening schools. What do you make of that? How possible and how, I mean...
First, I'm so worried that Magoha is going to call us back to school because the president has tried to open the country.
Oh, yeah?
I'm worried that they might make a decision that will lean to try to open schools. But I don't know how prepared our schools are. Sorry, I'm lucky to have gone to a primary school that is not congested. But I've seen schools that hold up to 1,000 kids in an acre.
Yeah.
You see? So we live here in Nairobi. We're here in Nairobi where we tend to see life differently. There are places which don't experience these things the way we experience them. Magoha may lean towards the opening to please the Kenyans and to please my friend.
Is this what you want for school to reopen?
My friend, the economy must open.
Okay.
Hold on. I keep hearing this argument about every teacher has to be tested.
Yes.
What are you talking about? Why not every doctor? Why not every citizen? 47 million of us. What are you talking about?
Okay.
There are 350,000 teachers in this country. Okay?
Yeah.
It has taken us 4 months to test 150,000 people. How long will it take us to test 350,000 teachers across this country?
Do the math.
Do the math. I'm doing. Across this country. No, it's not
it
simple.
Almost impossible.
It's not simple
science.
maths.
Yeah.
Because you are doing this testing now on localized area. When you're talking about teachers, you're talking about teachers in my village in Kama, in Loitokitok.
Yeah.
You're talking teachers in some place in Londiani. You're talking about teachers in Bura, in Hola, northeastern Kenya. So it's an year's job.
And the irony of testing teachers and failing to test students.
Exactly. The students are how many? 8 million?
Millions and millions.
8 million?
Yes.
You've tested 150,000 in 4 months and you want to test 8 million? You're a joker. But life must go on.
Okay.
Now I keep hearing this whole business of that we need fewer students in a class. They need to be whatever.
Yes.
Where do you guys live? Today we have a very sad situation, Linda.
Yeah.
Because I deal I talk to young people and I speak in schools. We have boys' schools or girls' schools where people share beds.
Yes.
They share beds.
Yeah, that's sad.
What nonsense are you talking about that you're going to all these nice things that you're talking about? Yet, and this is a sad thing.
Yeah.
You the CS for education, you're not saying what the ministry is doing towards that. I don't know any one of you have seen the briefing that the governor of New York was giving during when he was doing this. Before the economy of the US was forcibly opened by the death of George Floyd.
Right.
and people went to the streets,
Without
and
their
people
masks,
had no masks,
no social distance.
no social distancing,
Yeah.
and the numbers dropped.
Okay.
Oh, the numbers dropped.
Numbers dropped.
All right.
Now,
Completely.
Linda, I would want to say that maybe our country is driven by people who are guessing. Because
Isn't the global community guessing as
The
well?
whole global community
Yes.
is guessing on this coronavirus. My friend, no one knows.
yeah, true.
Today they say wear a mask. Tomorrow they tell you no, don't wear a mask.
Masks are not
Today they
needed.
tell you wear a mask if you're sick and if you're not sick. The next day they tell you that the virus are airborne for 8 hours. The next time they tell you it's only 2 minutes.
Can we just admit that we don't know what we are doing
Yeah.
to
Yes.
Kenyans?
Yeah.
And can we just tell them the truth that I want to open, but I don't want to open? So can we all decide? But our leaders thinking that if we tell them the truth, they are going to remove us from office. You know, these people should tell us the truth because it is unrealistic to deal with 8 million children, 8 million heads, 8 million testing, 350,000 teachers. It is unrealistic. So our leaders should just tell us that there's no direction for this. There's no direction, and we should just all go
Potelea
home.
Mbali. Let's figure out.
Just all go home.
Oh,
Yeah.
But now, home where?
No,
Some of us do not have homes
we
because,
have to
again,
be- we
the
have to-
landlords have thrown you out.
Linda, we have to be pragmatic
Yeah.
and say that this is not the first time that these kind of things have happened. We have had the
Swine flus.
Spanish flu
Yes,
in just the other day, 1918. We had plagues. We have, and we read about them
killed
in
millions and
history.
millions, yeah.
And that's why the Bible says there is nothing new under the sun.
sun, yeah.
Everything happens. Let's open up. Let's go back to work. Let's do what we have to do. Let's observe the guidelines. We have them. All of us now have them on the TV and everywhere else. We can't be holed up longer. Go to Tanzania. The other day I saw a clip of John Pombe Magufuli
yeah.
on the streets of Dar es Salaam, seated with the Kawatungu people. The one who sit around
Kawatungu, yes,
Kawatungu.
they take
And he was
the
buying
coffee.
everybody, and he was happy.
And they're okay with that.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
we
let's
had
wait and see. We can only hope
rumors.
that it's
We had
not
rumors
as bad.
about their leaders who had died of COVID-19.
Yeah, but
They
where
are still
they?
alive. I mean, it was all propaganda.
Don't you suppose it's probably more of a case of numerous asymptomatic cases there?
Of course, we have 2.7 million in Kenya.
Okay.
Hold on. We have 2.7 million people in Kenya,
As projected by Cambridge,
projected by Cambridge.
But
It's
distributed in a way by the-
a simple statistical analysis that you can also do yourself. In every testing that they do, they're getting between 3 and 6% positive. Random testing.
And how many people are exposed out
So
there?
which means
Contact.
you just extrapolate that.
Right.
My numbers are even higher than 2.7 million.
2.7.
But let's go with 2.7 million. We are 2.7 million who over time are developing their own immunity. And I think medical people need to come and tell us some of these things, that how this immunity is developed.
working, yeah.
But let me say this for the sake of the listener. I'm not saying that we belittle this situation. The situation is there. COVID is there. There are people who keep saying that there is no COVID. COVID is there. And we need to take care of ourselves. We need to follow the guidelines that we have been given so that we can protect ourselves against infections. Just like we do with HIV/AIDS. We know what to do not to get HIV/AIDS. We know what to do not to get malaria. So we need to protect ourselves. Because talking to a doctor this last 1 week, he told me that he wishes that the government would actually have people who give proper reporting especially during the briefing, to even give the number of people who are in hospital, who are in ICU.
Yeah.
Because we have numerous people. His estimate would be 30, 40, 50 people in various hospitals in Nairobi in ICU because of COVID. And people who are admitted because of COVID, isolation wards in the hospitals. I wish they could go around and say that we have so many here, we have so many here, so that people can realize this is a real problem.
Why is it that they're not doing that? I mean, we still are in the dark. Yes, President UHURU Kenyattas said that, please don't take this as a joke. And a majority of people will tell you that also. But why is it that we're still stigmatizing this? Why is it that we still are not getting clear pictures of what exactly is on ground, such that it is casting doubts?
Press statements are political statements meant to make names for people.
Oops.
So that you can receive those awards. Who received the award again? out of the ministry
Out of the ministry of
Dr. Amoth.
Dr. Yes.
Yes. I can say that
He
Dr.
did.
Amoth received an award because we now know him.
And also the CS was celebrated globally the first times, you know.
Yes.
He was all over newspaper across the globe.
Very
and how
true.
he's handling the addresses.
Now, these press conferences are more than Kagwe is our kingpin for the Mount Kenya.
Oh, yeah?
Because he has been handling this one like this. Super CS, you know, things like those ones. Who is Dr. Mwangangi? Who is this other one? So they...
And they've actually been reading so much into what has been happening between Kagwe and CS Fred Matiang'i again.
Yes, yes.
In terms of the movements that they've been
Yes,
making.
who is
traversing
who now in the country?
Are they trying to make inroads or what?
As Alex said, if we were sincere in this and we get proper reporting from uninterested people, sometimes I usually wonder, we are talking about 307 cases while we are still standing there. They should be sending us those things to the newsroom. Why should someone read it? Why can't you even sign it down there that it is Mutai Kagwe? Hata kama tutasoma, hata kama tutajua ni wewe. There has to be sincerity in this thing.
Okay.
Well, politicians are politicians, and Mutai is one of them.
Okay,
he ran for governor. People should be sincere.
Okay, well, away from that, I'll use the president's words, I'll quote and say, let us reflect on the issues occurring on our social front. There is increased attention at the home setup. He captured gender-based violence, teenage pregnancies, violation of children's rights as key things that have been reported to be on the rise in the country at this time of COVID-19.
I hear that, but I would like to tell him, Mr. President, the problem is not COVID-19. The problem is failed leadership.
Okay.
If leadership fails, people find their own ways of doing the things that they do. Gender violence was still there. We have no statistic to show that in 2019, 5 women were battered, and now the 20 women are battered. It was still there. And we know that because we live in this country. People's depression. This country was in recession before COVID happened. Actually, it was very good for a government to have a COVID because then you can blame everything else on COVID.
Right.
Yet it is a failed leadership that have caused the situation that we are in. There's somebody who was keeping, the other day they were sharing a meme that was showing the percentage of money collection from taxes that was done during Kibaki's time and during Zuhuru's time. And it shows that during Kibaki's time, the budget was supported almost 90% by local collections.
Right.
Today, the local collections support hardly 35% of the budget, which means you are borrowing so much to be able to bridge the gaps. We have real issues, and depression, gender violence, social breakdown, whatever he's talked about, happens when people don't have a stable economic status. And this COVID has just come to really complicate, and that's why I keep saying, let's open up, let's people get back their jobs, let's observe the Ministry of Health guidelines, because how long are we going to lock ourselves? We lock ourselves to death. It doesn't make sense. God has created us to be more creative than just locking ourselves so that we can die because of something that is out there.
He said, you know what, the current currency that we can pride in is in the ideas, and called upon the youth to come out with the creativity or creative ways of coming up on, towards ensuring that we have policies and ways of reviving the economy. But I'll go back to this point, and equally again quote him. He says, family is a projection of the nation. So when Alex here says that it is the leadership that has failed, well, we would want to acknowledge that. But does it mean also the family unit has failed, that the family unit was absent until now that COVID has brought us together? And then, yes, we are out here speaking of the ills that have been happening within.
The other week, I heard him blaming the provincial administration for the rise in pregnancy in
cases, yeah.
Cases.
Some of chief wataumia.
The chiefs should be around the states, taking care of our children from not going from one place to another. Misinformation, Linda. Okay. That's serious misinformation.
Why?
I'd want to say that our children are idle at home. Their movements are not restricted. And school tends to keep a nation straight because you have a month or less than a month at home. So when you get home, you try to catch up. When you think of catching up, you're called back to school.
Right.
So schools have been controlling us. There is also depression in the country. We had depression before in terms of economy and in terms of mental health. COVID has given us a reason that we should be depressed because of COVID. You know, last time we were depressed because of the economy, but when COVID came, now we took the reason from economy to COVID. You know, but depression has been there and it is still here. I want to differ with Alex. The cases of gender violence have gone up, either men or women, because you spend more time together and you tend to have friction more time. Those people who have made it past COVID will stay together forever. This was a testing time. Wow. And yes, and even and our children. If our children escaped vices, watu wanakunywa bangi. Watoto wanakunywa bangi.
And then you ask yourself, zinatoka wapi hizi zimefichwa huko? Wanasema pombe ni take away sasa.
I know. You see kids going into the winery, into the wine and spirits shop, carrying alcohol into their houses. I don't say that alcohol is bad, maybe. But I'm saying,
is it good? All right.
For them,
maybe for the stomach's sake, eh?
I don't take. So right. I can't speak for them.
Oh, all right.
So the bang in the streets, the early childhood pregnancies, the president is right. Our children are pregnant. The violence because of what we have, our offices are closed and we are so idle. But
I think the question you asked was whether the breakup of the family has been the major problem.
And actually now the president going to the National Crime Research Center and they calls upon them to conduct whatever it is that they're going to conduct in terms of investigations and look at the escalating trends and give us solutions, give us recommendations, give us advisory. Would they give anything better than what the family unit represents? If
you look at any study, psychological study in terms of a nation and the growth of a nation, it says that the nation is as strong as the family unit is. Yes. So when the family unit breaks up, and this has been going on over years because family breakup and the way people live together did not start yesterday. It's been there. That's why I'm saying I'm questioning, looking for excuses for everything that is negative that has happened around this time, and blaming this on this. Yeah. Remember the first person who came up with the whole issue of gender violence caused by COVID was Mwangangi, and that was in March, only 2 weeks into the coronavirus. What statistics
But there are also the projections that are there globally.
Thank you. Thank you. Have we studied? Do we have statistics in Kenya? Do we have? We don't. We don't have statistics of almost anything that is directed towards this.
Did you want us to rule out?
We're spending too much time. You see, as long as we spend time finding a reason to blame the societal issues, we'll never get a solution to that to society issue. Because if you blame COVID for gender violence, what are you saying? That people were not living together before COVID? That people are not fighting before COVID? That the man was drinking too much, that he wasn't coming home? What are you saying? What inference can you make out of it? Because the scientific is a scientific thing. Yeah. So what is causing the increase? The fact that the man and woman lives in the same house now for longer. Hold on. So the best thing is to release a man to go outside and drink again.
So that they do not lose the family.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
You know, there is a statement you make, but what are you inferring from that particular statement? So a nation needs to go that, and maybe need to go back to God. Right. Yes. It's not good for man to live alone.
That's right.
And that's why I make this being for him, so that he can balance him. Now, what you guys are saying is that when people live together in the same house for long, then they can't live
the
together.
friction is that they cannot live together.
They cannot live together.
Which again
It doesn't make sense.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me. And I think it's a bigger study of what we do with ourselves. But I think the key thing for me is that as a people, we must start taking responsibility for our lives. If we go out there and we're supposed to do a specific thing that the Ministry of Health has told us to do, let's do it. Let's open up the economy. Let's schedule September to open up schools and have the necessary infrastructure.
As soon as September.
Why not?
Okay.
The students in Tanzania in school today, they're not dropping dead.
All right, speaking of which, when we go back to school, in the event that we go back to school, yes, the Ministry of Education says that we'll have to have our students go back to where they were. How quick can the ones who are expecting to sit for an examination catch up to be able to walk into an examination room with confidence that indeed they're going to perform?
If they're given something like moderation.
Okay.
Moderation is hope for people who didn't go to school like you. Moderation is hope for the nomads and the pastoralists, and moderation is for the people who are disadvantaged in the society. Our children right now are disadvantaged because they didn't go to school. They haven't gone to school for 3 months
or 4 months, more than
5 months. Now, and also we have an opportunity also to move the exams up to next year. We are not dying, we are not going anywhere, and we'll be here. So let them move exams to April, to January, to where, and let them be prepared, and let the ministry, the government be prepared to moderate the examinations. And I am still saying this, there's no need for opening the schools.
Oh, okay.
Yes. we are not going anywhere.
What is the rush?
What is the rush?
Are you sure you don't know the importance of timelines in the lives of someone, and in how activities run, and the fact that you can say, postpone these examinations to next year? Remember, next year also there are other examinations that were expected to be there.
After you are done with talking about timelines, let's talk about how sick we can get and how we can lose lives. It can be also a timeline to die.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about opening education, I think it's also good for our listeners to understand that this also COVID has brought out the whole divide of have and have-nots.
Yeah.
Because the have-nots, my village mates in Wangige, in Kiambu, they are at home. They are not going to school. But the rest of the population, especially in Nairobi, they are all in school. They are all doing online. There are a good number of schools, especially the ones that use the British system. They are right now doing their exams for the semester, so they can close school. And they're going to close school in a week or two.
Yeah.
So which means that the people who are in school, so the people, the hoi polloi, and allow me to use that word this morning, are the ones who are suffering because they're the ones who are not going to school. Those that have our children, they are going on with school as if nothing has happened. They're doing their studies every day. They're doing their exams every day. So why would you want the people that we need to bring up continue to suffer? Open up the schools, let them go in. Now, these people are making a big issue about this exam situation. We closed the schools around mid-March, which means the schools had only 2 or 3 weeks to go for the first term. We've closed for 3 months now. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you open up in September, we just need to find a way to recover that. Schools are always closed in November. They're always closed in December. Which means we have 2 months to recover the lost 3.5 months already. So these exams can be done in January comfortably, without anybody losing anything, without this whole issue of moderation. Exams as usual. Students at home must be encouraged to continue studying, to continue preparing themselves for the exams that are coming.
Now that you brought the issue of the discrepancies that we witnessed today, what lessons do we pick from what we are going through right now in future that we can make the best of the education sector, we can make the best of every other sector that we have today that is ailing and that we've noticed there is a problem courtesy of COVID-19?
Linda, let me just talk about government institutions. The government has a lot of money and they are pouring a lot of money and they are wasting a lot of money instead of improving the resources that we have, instead of improving the schools that we have. You know, we need our schools improved. And we are not asking. We are demanding because we have elected people to go to the office. Right now we are grappling with 100 pupils in a class. Right now we are trying now to complete the electricity network in the country. We are trying to take water to our schools. Our schools should be the basis of our development. We are brought up badly in our primary schools. So they should look at the primary schools, the health centers. When we were starting, you talked about our health centers trying to come up with beds so that we can accommodate this. We're living in a bandit economy where everyone is for himself. Our hospitals are just like other things, and our politicians even cannot go into our hospitals. They can't. And they are the ones making for us laws in Parliament. Why can't we have an improvement of the health sector, of the education sector, of food production in the country? It has given us a lot of loopholes. The country is affected just for 1 week, and the whole country is starving. You know, the government is. I heard Alex saying that the government cannot even afford to collect enough tax. Let me give you the numbers. The government collects 1.6 trillion.
In form of tax?
Yes, 1.6. The salaries of the government employees is 1.8.
So they take it.
So even the tax cannot cover the salaries. And what is the budget?
3 point something.
2.7.
Well, say now 2.7. Initially it was 3.
Yes, the deficit is 1.1. We are borrowing 1.1 to pay the employees first, and then to eat. You see, if we close the loopholes, Linda, and channel these things to preschool, primary school, high school, university, and make sure that we compare with the universities of the world. Then we can be better people. We can come up with the treatment of COVID-19, and we can go back to the economy the way he is saying that we have to open the economy.
Speaking of going back to the economy, all right, yes, cessation of movement has been lifted.
Yeah,
Nairobi, Mombasa. I know you will appreciate that, but just
100%. I've been wondering why it was locked up.
Okay. So these movements, did you have any element of fear on, the movements that, the careless movements that are going to be made across, and the dangers that it will pose to us?
Linda and my brother, have people been going to visit in Nairobi? You know, the people who live in Nairobi, but they don't visit Nairobi.
Okay.
Because they're in their house.
They're in the house, and that's it.
I want you to go to where the majority of Nairobians live, in the settlement areas. We call them settlement areas, Mukuru kwa Jenga, Karibangi, Kawangware, and those other kind of places that some of us go. There's no lockdown.
They have no idea of what a lockdown is.
They wear masks, but their living situation is such that social distancing is a story. The wall between my house and your house is an iron sheet. And my house has 10 people and your house has 8 people. So what social distance are you talking about? This is no social distancing. And that's where the majority of Nairobians live. So we need to visit these places so that we can know, even when we give very big sounding words of social distancing, what they mean. And I'm saying it is critical for us to understand that COVID-19 is not a joke. COVID-19 exists, and COVID-19 requires us to take responsibility.
And when you talk about that, we know very well that the borders were closed partially, and there was, that's a blessing of course, we can have cargo being transported across different parts. And there's been a stalemate, a total stalemate, and terrible occurrences at that level of the border. Trucks staying there for weeks and weeks without them getting a go-ahead. So in the event that we reopen and we allow the PSV to traverse different parts of the counties and the country, I mean, just how possible are we able to be disciplined enough? Remember, the president said that, you have to abide by what restrictions have been given. You have to test if you are using PSV and all these activities. Just how disciplined and how able are we to be able to achieve this? So moving forward, we can say that yes, now the economy is back rolling.
You said earlier that the president of almost inferred that Kenyans are not their own. And I want to reiterate that you and I are on our own. So we need to take care of ourselves.
Wow.
Linda, I deal with transport industry in some way, and I know that because of the scuffle that have been especially between Kenya and Uganda border and the testing and all that, the transporters' business have dropped by at least 60%. Anybody who moves cargo there
will tell you that.
It used to take a turnaround of 5-6 days. Now it's taking almost 15 to 20 days to get the truck back. So it does only one trip per month. And it's a big issue, and it continues being a big issue because there's a lot of politics around it. You remember the Tanzania border where some people are tested to be positive, only to go into Tanzania and be tested and they are negative. We've had my friend George Pombe Magufuli testing goats and coconuts, and they all became positive. Questioning the whole aspect of testing. Last 2 weeks ago, there was a very interesting situation in one transporter here in Nairobi. His drivers were tested in Mombasa, 10 of them positive. They came, the response team did not go and pick them. So the owners thought, what do we do? Since you're the only guy in the truck, you drive on. They went to Malaba, they were tested, they were negative. Entered Uganda and came back. We are on our own, but let's remember that this is a real threat for our nation, and let's take care according to what we've been advised. We are on our own. We don't forget that.
All right,
Linda. The opening up of the borders of Nairobi, I think the government made a very wise decision to lock out Nairobi from the rest of the country and Mombasa too. If you argue against that, then you want to tell me that it didn't help Eastleigh, that the lockdown for Eastleigh did not help.
Did it?
It did.
Okay.
The numbers went down immediately. So if we joked about opening Nairobi and spreading the disease from the center, the epicenter, into our villages, right now we would be grappling with a country red spot, hot spot in the whole country. So opening up or closing down of Nairobi was the best move ever because it managed to close us in here. And even when you talk about Mukuru kwa Njenga, there are things that we can't help. There are things that we can't get it right every time. Yeah. So opening up right now is because of the pressure of Wananchi.
Okay.
And it might backfire. And it might be closed down. But Kenyans have to be brought to the table. Kenyans are reasonable people. And if we negotiate with them, they will see the reasons why we shouldn't do that. And the government has to come out clean. And it has to give us money.
All right, to proceed.
Not to eat the money alone.
All right.
4 million cup of tea. We also need to drink that tea.
That is 4 million.
4 million baht. I need to drink it.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. In 30 seconds, your parting shots, as we call it, Adi. It's Saba Saba, by the way.
Yes, it's Saba Saba. But we forgot about that, Matiba's thing. Kawangware was an epicenter, and they had a lot of cases. The MP for the area, what is his name again?
Kawangware is Simba
Arati. Asked that he be given a list of the people that were positive, so that they can use the Nyumba Kumi to trace those people, so that they can be able to help them in terms of containment, not to stigmatize them, but to be able to help be held. And on the day he asked for that list, the number dropped to 0.
Interestingly, no cases being reported.
No cases reported. Easily, he talks about easily.
Maybe it's because there's no testing. As soon as it was mentioned,
the cases dropped to 0. How?
They probably did not conduct testing.
They all got healed.
They all decided they're not going to conduct testing.
We locked down Old Town. It's all propaganda.
Actually, there's a report coming from Old Town that is also not so good. In terms of the numbers, it's just that it has not been projected. We can only say that they remain as rumor and speculation until, yes, the Ministry of Health talks about that.
I just want to take my 30 seconds and speak to my friends my Kenyan brothers and sisters that we are on our own. It's critical that we observe the situation. I have friends in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and Marcio tells me they have been burying people in their localities in hundreds. And you know that now Brazil, I think, is the 5th country now in the world. It's the 4th country in the world in terms of deaths that are happening. So this is a reality. So those people who have preconditions, you are at a bigger risk. If they say if you're 50 and above, don't think they're just saying that we are old people. They're saying that I'm more vulnerable than you are, Linda.
Yeah.
So I need to take care of myself, even much more. Let's keep our distance. Let's do the things that the ministry is urging us to do, and I know the Lord will be with us. But let's open the full economy. Let's do business. Let's not kill ourselves with depression and hunger.
Your 30 seconds begin now.
Maybe just took 30 minutes.
I realize that.
Now, I have 2 parting shots. One on the COVID-19, 2 on Sabasaba. One, I would want to say that the president is wrong in all his decisions that he made yesterday.
Okay.
All of them are wrong, and his advisors are politically advising him because of the pressure. Now, 2 Kenyans should be brought to the table, and we should all discuss and reason together how we can have food on the table. On Sabasaba, I have respect for our forefathers, Raila Odinga. I have much respect for Raila Odinga. Kenya is one of the biggest nations in Africa because of the democracy, the war that we have had in the country. I'm not a supporter of Raila Odinga right now. I'm on the other side. But I have much respect for Raila and company.
All right. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Alex Mwathi, who's an engineer, author, and political analyst, and also Edgar Koski, engineer and political analyst. Thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to another session, even as we await to see what will take stage or what direction the country will head. And we'll be here to ensure that we update you on the same. Up next, we'll be discussing matters as Sabasaba. We have a guest on board, and I'll be